Think about it. Right now, at this very moment, you are bleeding money, and you don't even feel it. Not because someone is stealing from you, not because the economy is conspiring against you, but because the system you live inside was designed with extraordinary precision to make sure you never notice. Every single morning you wake up and follow a routine that feels normal, that feels like yours. But what if that routine, the coffee, the apps, the subscriptions, the small harmless purchases, was actually a carefully engineered trap? Not a metaphor, a real, psychological, financially devastating trap. And here's the part nobody talks about. The people who built these traps don't call them traps. They call them convenience, they call them lifestyle, they call them self-care. But the math tells a completely different story. And by the end of this video, you will never look at your daily routine the same way again. Because here's the thing. Poverty is not just a condition, it's a cycle. And cycles have entry points. Most people think poverty traps are about not having enough money. But the real poverty traps, they're about where your money goes before you even realize it's gone. 10 of them. Hidden inside habits so ordinary, so deeply embedded in modern life, that calling them dangerous almost sounds ridiculous. Almost. We're going to go through every single one, and we're going to use real numbers. Not estimates, not approximations. The kind of numbers that, once you see them, you cannot unsee. But here's what I want you to hold on to as we move forward. One of these traps, just one, is responsible for more wealth destruction in the middle class than any single recession in the last 50 years. We'll get there. Stay with me. Let's start with the world you were born into. Not literally, of course, but psychologically. From the moment modern consumer culture took shape, roughly post-World War II, accelerating through the 1980s and reaching total dominance by the 2010s, an entire architecture was built around a single goal. Getting you to spend. Not invest, not save. Spend. And the most sophisticated version of this architecture doesn't target your wallet first. It targets your brain. Specifically, it targets the gap between what you feel and what you think. Because when emotion and logic are in conflict, emotion wins, almost every single time. Behavioral economists have studied this for decades. Daniel Kahneman called it System 1 versus System 2 thinking, the fast brain versus the slow brain. And corporations have built billion-dollar strategies around one simple insight. If you can keep someone operating in System 1, they will spend. If they ever shift into System 2, they will stop. So the game, from the corporation's perspective, is devastatingly simple. Keep you emotional. Keep you reactive. Keep you in a state where spending feels like relief. And that game begins before you even leave your house in the morning. Trap number 1, the daily coffee ritual. Now, before you roll your eyes, understand this. The point is not that your morning coffee is ruining your life. The point is what the coffee represents inside a much larger system. The average American spends between $100 and $500 per year on coffee outside the home. That's the surface number. Here's the deeper number. If that same amount, let's call it was $200 annually, was invested in an index fund with an average annual return of 10%, starting at age 25, by age 65, you would have approximately $531,000 from coffee. That is not a typo. But the money is not even the real trap. The real trap is the identity attachment. At some point, the morning coffee stopped being a drink. It became a ritual, a personality trait, a non-negotiable. And the moment something becomes non-negotiable in your budget, it becomes financially dangerous. Because non-negotiables compound. 1 becomes 3, 3 becomes 5. And suddenly, you have an entire lifestyle built from non-negotiables that you never consciously chose, you simply accumulated. That is the mechanism. That is how trap number 1 works. Not with drama, with repetition. Trap number 2 hits harder. Subscription creep. And this one operates almost entirely below the level of conscious awareness. Think about how subscriptions were sold to you. One low monthly price, cancel anytime, sounds reasonable, sounds like you're in control. But the entire subscription economy is built on one foundational psychological truth. People dramatically underestimate how many subscriptions they have and what they collectively cost. A 2022 study by C+R Research found that consumers underestimate their monthly subscription spending by an average of $133 per month. That is $1,596 per year in money people believed they were spending but had never actually accounted for. The services signed up for during a free trial and forgotten. The app used twice in 2021. The streaming platform perpetually on the watch list. The software subscription that auto-renewed at triple the introductory price. Each one feels small, $9.99, $14.99, $4.99. But the human brain is not built to aggregate small recurring costs. It is built to evaluate single transactions. So when you decide whether to buy a $400 jacket, your brain registers the weight of $400. When you are paying $400 per month across 12 subscriptions, your brain registers almost nothing. That asymmetry. That cognitive blind spot. That is the trap. And the companies that built the subscription model understood this before most of their customers could spell the word algorithm. Trap number 3. The treat yourself loop. This one is psychological warfare dressed as self-compassion. Modern consumer culture has done something truly remarkable. It has successfully rebranded impulsive spending as emotional intelligence. You had a hard day. You deserve it. You've been stressed all week. Take care of yourself. You've been grinding. Buy the thing. And look, self-care is real. Rest is real. But there is a specific mechanism being exploited here that most people never identify. It is called ego depletion. The psychological principle that willpower is a finite daily resource. By the end of a long day, your capacity for self-regulation is genuinely diminished. And the retail industry, both physical and digital, has structured its most aggressive marketing around evening hours precisely because of this research. Amazon Prime's peak transaction window is between 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. That is not a coincidence. That is applied behavioral science targeted at your exhausted brain at your most vulnerable hour. When you treat yourself after a hard week, you are not making a free, fully conscious choice. You are making a choice in a state of diminished cognitive capacity, guided by marketing systems engineered to reach you in exactly that state. And the financial damage compounds not just because of the money spent, but because of the money that never reached an investment account, a debt payment, or an emergency fund. Some researchers estimate emotional spending accounts for 15 to 20% of total discretionary income for the average household. Every year, quietly, without a single dramatic purchase to point to. Trap number 4. Fast fashion and the low price. Illusion. There is an entire economic philosophy behind why a $12 shirt feels like a smart purchase and a $120 shirt feels like an indulgence. It is called cost-per-use blindness. Your brain evaluates purchase price, not cost per use over time. A $12 shirt that falls apart after 6 washes costs you $2 per wear. A $120 shirt of genuine quality that survives 5 years and 200 wears cost you $0.60 per wear. But in the moment of purchase, your brain does not run that calculation. And the fast fashion industry, a $100 billion global machine, has built its entire existence on that cognitive failure. Here is where it escalates. The average American buys 65 new garments per year. In 1980, that number was 12. We are buying 5 times more clothing than we did 40 years ago, and discarding 4 times more. The financial cost is significant. The opportunity cost is staggering. But there is a third cost that rarely gets discussed, the psychological cost of chronic overconsumption. Studies consistently show that people who own fewer, higher quality possessions report greater life satisfaction and lower financial anxiety than people surrounded by an abundance of cheap ones. The low price illusion does not just drain your bank account. It clutters your physical space, your mental bandwidth, and your entire relationship with the concept of value. Here is where something shifts, because so far, every trap has been about what you buy. The next few operate at a completely different level. They are about how you pay. And that distinction matters more than most people will ever realize. Trap number 5. The buy now, pay later trap. This is the one promised at the beginning. And this is the mechanism that has caused more financial damage to the middle class in the last decade than almost any other single invention. BNPL services, Klarna, Afterpay, Affirm, and their many relatives have grown from a niche product to a $680 billion global industry in less than 10 years. That growth is not an accident. It is the result of deliberately exploiting 3 specific psychological vulnerabilities simultaneously in a single transaction. First, the pain of payment. Research shows that spending money creates a measurable psychological discomfort, and that discomfort is significantly reduced when payment is deferred. Paying later literally hurts less in the moment of purchase, which means people spend more. Second, installment framing. A $400 purchase presented as 4 payments of $100 feels 30 to 40% more affordable to the human brain, even when the total cost is identical, or higher once fees are included. Third, decoupling. When the payment is separated from the purchase, when the item is already in your hands before any money leaves your account, the psychological link between spending and consequence is severed. You receive the full dopamine reward of acquisition, without the sobering reality check of watching your balance drop. The result is predictable. BNPL users spend an average of 45% more per transaction than non-BNPL users, and a 2023 Consumer Financial Protection Bureau report found that BNPL borrowers are significantly more likely to carry high credit card balances, miss payments, and fall into revolving debt cycles. The very people who use BNPL because they cannot comfortably afford a purchase outright are being invited into a system that, statistically, makes their financial situation substantially worse. That is not a side effect. That is the business model. Trap number 6. The minimum payment illusion. This is the poverty trap that hides in plain sight, right there on your monthly statement. Minimum payment due, $35. And here is the cruelty of it, paying that $35 feels responsible. It feels like financial management. It feels like you are handling things. But here is what that $35 actually means in practice. If you carry a $5,000 balance on a credit card with a 24% APR, the current national average in the United States, and you pay only the minimum each month, you will spend over 17 years eliminating that debt. And you will pay approximately $7,400 in interest alone on $5,000 of purchases. You will pay 148% of what you originally spent. The minimum payment is not a financial tool. It is a financial sedative. It keeps you comfortable enough to keep carrying the balance, which keeps you paying interest, which keeps the debt alive, which keeps you financially constrained. The credit card industry collects roughly $130 billion in interest and fees from American consumers every single year. The majority of that money comes from people who genuinely believe they were managing their credit responsibly. Trap number 7. The upgrade cycle trap. Your phone, your laptop, your car, your appliances. There is an invisible treadmill built into modern consumer life, and it is accelerating every year. The average American upgrades their smartphone every 2.5 years at an average device cost of $800 to $1,200. With trade-in values declining sharply as each new model arrives. The total annual cost of smartphone ownership, device amortization, monthly plan, accessories, cases, and screen protectors runs between $1,500 and $2,000 for the average person every year. But what makes the upgrade cycle a genuine poverty trap rather than simply an expensive habit is what drives it, not necessity, social signaling, and manufactured obsolescence. Apple and Samsung release new flagship devices annually, not because the technology is revolutionary each time. Often, it is not, but because the release creates cultural pressure. The new device becomes a status marker. Your existing phone, which was cutting edge 26 months ago, now looks dated, feels dated, even if it performs identically to the day you purchased it. And the psychology of the upgrade cycle extends far beyond phones. The identical mechanism operates across cars, appliances, furniture, and kitchen equipment. The trap is not any single upgrade. The trap is the belief system underneath it, that newer means better, that better means necessary, and that what you already own is quietly becoming inadequate. But this is where everything changes. Because the traps covered so far, once identified, are relatively visible. The final three are different. They do not look like spending traps at all. They look like reasonable choices, practical decisions, even smart ones. That is precisely what makes them the most dangerous traps on this list. Trap number 8, the convenience premium. This one will permanently reframe how you see your financial life. There is a price attached to every convenience. That price, individually, is always small. A $3 delivery fee, a $2 ATM surcharge, a $1.50 airport markup on a water bottle, a $7 premium for pre-cut vegetables over whole ones. None of these feel like financial decisions. They feel like practical choices made by a busy, intelligent adult. But here is the aggregate reality. The average American pays between $5,000 and $7,000 per year in convenience premiums. Delivery fees, service charges, grab-and-go food markups, convenience store pricing, rushed shipping upgrades, premium parking. None of these transactions were necessities. All of them were choices made in moments of low friction and high time pressure. And here is the darker psychology at work. Convenience has been brilliantly marketed as intelligence. In a complex, demanding world, paying slightly more to save time genuinely feels like a rational trade-off. Sometimes it is, but at the scale most people operate, across dozens of microtransactions every week, the convenience premium quietly consumes a staggering portion of what could become savings. The real trap is not any individual convenience purchase. The real trap is when premium pricing becomes so normalized that it stops feeling like a choice. When paying more for the same outcome simply becomes how things work. At that point, you are not choosing convenience. Convenience is choosing for you. Trap number 9. Financial illiteracy as a daily tax. This is the trap that enables every other trap on this list. And it is the one the system has the least incentive to help you escape. Consider this number carefully. According to the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, only 34% of Americans can correctly answer basic financial literacy questions. 34%. And the cost of financial illiteracy is not abstract or philosophical. It is precisely measurable. People with low financial literacy pay an estimated 50% more in loan fees and interest over their lifetimes than financially literate counterparts with identical incomes. They are 3 times more likely to become victims of financial fraud, and they retire with roughly 40% less accumulated wealth than financially literate individuals who earned the same salary across the same career. Not because they worked less, not because they earned less, because they understood less about how money actually moves. Financial illiteracy is not a personal failing. It is a structural outcome. Financial literacy is not taught in most schools. The complexity of financial products is deliberately preserved because complexity creates profit opportunities for institutions, and the media ecosystem surrounding personal finance is saturated with noise, conflicting advice, and content creators selling courses rather than delivering genuine clarity. But here is the unvarnished truth. In the modern economy, not understanding money is not a neutral position. It is an expensive one. Every year spent without a working understanding of compound interest, tax efficiency, debt mechanics, and investment. Fundamentals is a year the system runs at your direct expense. The financial literacy trap is not a single dramatic event. It is a slow, steady, invisible erosion of everything your labor is supposed to build. Trap number 10. The lifestyle inflation spiral. This is the final trap. And it may be the most insidious of all, because it becomes visible only in retrospect, usually when it is far too late to easily correct. It almost always begins the same way: a raise, a promotion, a new position. Income increases, and with it, expenses increase, in almost perfect parallel. New apartment, better car, nicer restaurants, upgraded vacations, a wardrobe that matches the elevated version of yourself you are now presenting to the world. Lifestyle inflation is so thoroughly normalized that mainstream culture has no negative language for it at all. We call it upgrading. We call it living well. We call it enjoying the fruits of your labor. But here is the arithmetic that nobody places in front of you at the moment the decision is being made. A person earning $60,000 who consistently saves 20% and invests the difference will accumulate more wealth by age 55 than a person earning $120,000 who saves only 5% while spending the rest. Double the income, half the wealth. Because wealth is not constructed by earning more. Wealth is constructed by protecting the gap between what you earn and what you spend. Lifestyle inflation closes that gap, or eliminates it entirely. And the psychological engine that drives it is entirely understandable. You worked hard, you earned more, you deserve more. That feeling is real and valid, but it is also exploitable. And the entire premium consumer economy is architected to exploit it at the precise moment your income rises. Every category of aspirational consumption, luxury vehicles, designer labels, upscale neighborhoods, business class travel, is positioned and marketed specifically at people whose incomes have recently increased. The lifestyle inflation trap does not wait for you to stumble into it. It finds you at your most successful, at your most optimistic, at the exact moment when spending feels most earned and most justified. Now step back and see the full picture. 10 traps, all operating simultaneously, some designed with deliberate precision, others emerging organically from the collision of human psychology and corporate incentive. But all of them sharing a single critical feature. None of them work by force. None of them require you to be careless, irresponsible, or financially naive. Every single one of them works by aligning with something real in you. Your need for comfort, your desire for belonging and status, your legitimate exhaustion, your limited daily cognitive bandwidth, your entirely reasonable wish to enjoy the money you spent years earning. That is the sophistication of the architecture. It does not fight against your nature. It flows with it and redirects it toward consumption. And the escape from these traps is not a matter of willpower. Willpower is finite. The system is not. The escape is awareness. The escape is understanding the mechanism before it activates, before the emotion fires, before the framing takes hold, before the minimum payment feels like responsibility and the BNPL installment feels like a deal. Look at the numbers, one final time together. The daily coffee habit, compounded over 40 years of investing the difference, $531,000 in lost wealth. Subscription creep, $1,596 per year in spending most people cannot account for. The buy now, pay later trap, 45% higher spending per transaction for its average user. The minimum payment illusion, $7,400 in interest paid on a single $5,000 balance. The upgrade cycle, up to $2,000 per year for a device that fits in your pocket. The convenience premium, up to $7,000 per year in unnecessary markups on ordinary purchases. Financial illiteracy, 40% less retirement wealth versus a financially literate peer with an identical career. The lifestyle inflation spiral, Double the income, half the wealth, when the gap is not protected. Taken individually, each number is sobering. Taken together across a full lifetime, they do not just represent a financial shortfall, they represent the difference between freedom and fragility. Between the life you are capable of building and the life the system has quietly, methodically, invisibly constructed for you in its place. There is a version of your life where these traps were identified early, where the daily routine was examined honestly rather than accepted automatically, where the psychology was understood before it was exploited. In that version, the decisions are not dramatically different, not ascetic, not joyless, not extreme, just deliberate. The coffee is a conscious choice, not an unconscious compulsion. The subscriptions are reviewed with regularity. Every purchase is evaluated on cost per use rather than sticker price. The credit card is a deliberate financial instrument, not an emotional pressure valve. When income rises, the gap, the distance between earning and spending, is protected first before the lifestyle expands to absorb it. None of this is complicated, but all of it requires seeing what you are actually surrounded by. It requires recognizing that the architecture of your daily life was not built neutrally. It was built with intent, with research, with a clear understanding of your psychological vulnerabilities and a deliberate strategy to monetize them before you ever identified them as vulnerabilities at all. The most powerful financial insight is not a formula. It is not a ratio or a percentage or an investment vehicle. It is this: the gap between what you earn and what you spend is the only number that genuinely determines your financial future. Not your salary, not your title, not your degree. The gap. Protect it. Widen it deliberately. And never allow the system to close it without your full, conscious, informed consent. If this video shifted something in how you see your daily routine, if even one of these traps lands differently now than it would have an hour ago, then you already have something worth more than information. You have a new way of seeing. Use it. And if you want to keep building that clarity, FinTrove has more waiting for you. Subscribe. The next one will matter just as much as this one did.